This executive order was mean-spirited and un-American.
What are you, 5 years old? You're crying over this executive order, saying that it's mean-spirited? Political decisions should not be made over feelings or what makes you feel good or bad. They should be made by logic and reason, based on facts and data. Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to go over the misconceptions, hypocrisies, and straight-up lies about Trump's supposed Muslim ban, and I'm also going to be giving my take on it. I want to preface this video with I hold the belief that terrorism is still an irrational fear, like one held about getting bit by a shark while swimming in the ocean. It is highly unlikely that you will ever be affected by terrorism for the majority of Americans who live outside of big cities. If you live in a big city, it is still highly unlikely that terrorism will not directly affect you, considering the fact that you are 64 times as likely to be killed by homicide than terrorism. With that said, we cannot ignore the exponential rise in terrorist-related events in cities and even small towns all over Europe, and the imminent collapse of their culture and values due to the mass importation of Muslim migrants. And we can also not ignore the fact that terrorism is an epidemic among the Muslim world according to statistics. And facts can't be Islamophobic. Okay, now let's get into this executive order. First of all, and most importantly, this is not a Muslim ban. The way that everyone is totally losing their shit over this executive order, you would think Donald Trump is rounding up Muslims in the US and sending them off to death camps, or that he's gunning them down in the streets. Let's look at this from a rational perspective. He is banning people from a list of 7 countries from entering the country, and it is only for 90 days. Not forever, not 10 years, not for 1 year, 90 days. And it is a list of countries that have a history of harboring and breeding terrorism. Not once in the executive order did it mention Muslim or Islam. That was the media and the left that decided to bring religion into this. Second of all, he did not even ban people from countries with the highest amounts of Muslim populations, by overall amount and by Muslim population density. If he wanted to ban Muslims, wouldn't you think he would make an executive order actually banning Muslims? But that's not what he did, because he's not banning Muslims. And third, I quote, according to the draft of Trump's executive order, the countries whose citizens are barred entirely from entering the United States is based on a bill that Obama signed into law in December 2015. And in February 2016, the Obama administration added Libya, Somalia, and Yemen to the list of countries who could not have been visited. And when Obama stopped processing Iraqi visas in 2011 after al-Qaeda members were found to have infiltrated the United States through that system. But I don't recall everyone freaking out on this level when Obama did the same things, because Obama is the left's lord and savior who could do no wrong. And personally, I would be concerned about any group of people who are so desperately trying to flee their own people. And if Islam is such a peaceful ideology, why are Muslim majority countries plagued with such violence and terror? And why are Muslims fleeing their own people and countries in fear? I don't want mass importation of what seems like a toxic ideology, especially after I have seen what is done to various nations in Europe. It looks like there is not strength, but weakness and destruction in diversity. The values of Europe are breaking down, and the society is becoming more and more divided with each day that passes. Everywhere I look, I cannot find one positive result from the mass importation of Syrian migrants. Another thing to note is the extreme imbalance in the demographics among the Syrian migrants to Europe. Take Sweden, for example. Among the 23,000 unoccupied minors between the ages of 13 and 17 years old, over 21,000 of them were male. This is concerning for Sweden, considering Islam is notoriously opposed to women's rights. This brings up another concern, which is the vast differences between Muslim culture and values and Western culture and values. Strength and diversity is a myth and has been proven over and over again. And we are seeing this myth play out in various European countries. And many of these migrants are seeking refuge in Europe for the benefits, living off the government programs and not contributing anything like some sort of societal parasite. A few residents of Sweden were interviewed on the street, and they held the belief that Swedish people need to adapt to the migrants' culture instead of the other way around. This is totally backwards thinking. I cannot believe how brainwashed the people of Sweden are. The fact is, Trump's executive order may not make you feel good, but it is the right thing to do to preserve culture in the United States and to get control of the migrant situation, and to give us time before we make potentially deadly mistakes. And yes, it is true that the US has not experienced the amount of terrorism as Europe, but that is exactly the point, because the US has not practiced the mass importation of Syrian migrants on the level that Europe has. And that is exactly what this executive order is all about. It's about the prevention of what is happening in Europe and protecting the American people. It is not Islamophobic, it's rational. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and also check out my previous video about the Women's March on Washington. Anyways, that's it for this one, and I'll see you guys in the next video.